Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Depression Chamber. If you don't know what this is, the other day I said, just send me your messages about depression or thoughts of suicide or experiences with any of these things, and I'm just going to do a live stream where I read all of them. And I was astonished at the number that I got, probably way more than I could possibly do in this show unless I go all night. And just because of the raw number of entries, I did not manage to go through them and to comb out the bad ones. So we're just gonna go through these, and rats and all, I think is a saying that I just made up, and we'll see what we can get. And it's gonna be hard to tell when I'm reading an email and when I'm talking as myself. So I think I'm going to just read through the whole thing, no matter how long it is. And then when it's done, I'll say and that's the end of the email or something, so that when I start talking to you, you know that I'm not still reading the email. So let's jump into number one. I'm going to take a swig of my Rolling Rock real quick to wet my whistle. I hope you all have alcohol at home. And if you're sending shit in the chat that I need to see, I don't see it because I'm reading emails right now. So please hold your comments that you want me to read until I finish an email. Here we go. I've only had one friend. Maybe it's my horrible face or my low voice that scares people, but I've always had a hard time dealing with them. It was when I was 14 when I started feeling depressed, in quotes. I would lock up in shitty room that was full of water and piss because of the broken pipe that was over it. There I would play video games or watch anime for hours. Oh my god, this sounded like a meme. And never talk to anybody except my only friend, my best friend. We would sometimes have this long conversations about how our life would get better when we grow up, or how life sucked for the both of us. Mind you, this was never in person since we were afraid to get out. We even signed up for homeschool just so we wouldn't had to go to school to face all the girls laughing at us or the boys beating us up. I'm from Mexico, so that's more normal here. We set up what would ultimately be my friend's suicide in the Christmas of my 16th birthday. I received a call from him telling me he would kill himself. I tried calling the cops, running to his house to stop him, but it was too late. I couldn't save my best friend, so I did what I do best and locked myself again in that fucking room. My parents didn't give a shit about me, and I already had my high school finished. In Mexico, you can do all of high school in one exam. So the cops didn't care either. I don't talk to anybody. Nobody talks to me. When I watch YouTube, I'm a ghost. This is the first time I've participated in a YouTube thing. I hate myself. I've never done anything to make me feel proud of myself. And now that I'm 19, I need to enter college or find a job or I'm fucked. I wish I had the courage to kill myself. I wish I had the balls to talk to somebody. Fuck it. You don't even understand this broken English. Sorry to waste your time. Thanks for the videos. When I hear your jokes or your stories, it reminds me of my best friend. That was fucking gay. Sorry. And that's the end of the voicemail. Well, shit. That's a heavy one to start off with. Best friend in the world kills himself at age 16, huh? I can only imagine, yeah, just the guilt of feeling like you could have done something. It's like a cinematic film moment. You get that message and it's just like the tension rises and the music starts getting intense and you're like running to his house to rush and stop him and you don't show up in time. Fuck. Okay, well, let's go on to the next one, I guess. I mean, there's not a lot to say to these. I want to give everybody who has a story to tell the opportunity to get it out there. So I'm not going to do too much, too much discussion on each one. Here's another one. I got this blog I never really end up doing anything with it. Every time I think of something, I forget most of it and never get back to it. And I think about those and just become disappointed in myself until I don't care anymore. And that's really the problem. Nothing really makes me depressed. I'll just get angry and deal with it that way. Except when I have nothing to care about or be angry about. I become so bored, I get lethargic and can't think about anything. After a while, all that nothing just makes me depressed and unable to do anything, and I drop half my classes, and at several points just stare at my friend in my art class, completely mentally wrecked. There's nothing actually wrong with me, it's just that there's nothing. It's so bad that writing this is enough of an accomplishment to make me happy. I think it's getting better. It feels like it's getting better. I have some ideas for the blog, so that might yield something, but I'll probably just get depressed again. And that's the end of the email. Well, he says, that he feels nothing, but then also suspects that there isn't anything wrong with him. But I think the nothingness is the depression. Maybe he articulated this and I just missed it, but like not feeling anything is what depression is. People generally say that they think that depression is synonymous with sadness, and that's often the case, but not all the time. Depression is more, at least in my experience, of feeling actual nothing, to feel empty inside, to have no motivation or no interest in doing anything. All the things that you previously enjoyed, you now just think of in disgust or just general disinterest. So I wouldn't, if I were you, I wouldn't say, oh, it must be nothing because I feel nothing. I think it's evident just from these 3 paragraphs that you probably are depressed. And I think the first step, and this is going to sound like those 12-step programs, but the first step is acknowledging that you do have it. Because if you just keep denying your problem, like you can't do anything to try to improve the situation. I don't know. I saw a comment that just said Pickle Rick. Very appropriate. Thanks for the input, punished CIA. What's next? Okay. Wow, we're 2 in and we haven't hit any memes yet. I'm surprised. I was expecting, there's a lot of shit posting in the YouTube comments, but then most of the emails seemed pretty genuine from the little look over I did. Didn't really read any in depth though. Here's the 3rd one. Each day as I wake up, it's like a throw a coin. Tail, I get up, drink a coffee, sit at my desk and start to work. When I'm done working, I eat, I check online. Sometimes I go to a movie or to the pub like I have a life. Head, I need 4 hours to get up, only to feel my legs crumble under me and being unable to fucking move a toe for 5 more hours. I usually spend the 13 next hours trying to crawl to my window and throw myself out, only in the hope to crash on the concrete 5-story lower. Until today, in vain. I have no legitimate reason to not to be perfectly happy with my life, but when the bitterness hit, there is nothing to avoid it. As boring and unoriginal as the story is, I would prefer if you kept it anonymous. No problem. I've kept them all anonymous. Sorry, that was me. Also, my English is nothing but flawless. So feel free to correct me if I'm actually readable, of course. Thank you for being there. And that's the end of the email. Yeah, I think you have a more extreme version of the condition that I have diagnosed myself as of bipolar disorder, where, yeah, it is like, every day is either one extreme or the other. You either feel, chipper, like you can tackle the day and do the things you need to do, or you just feel like an empty, dead slug who doesn't want to do anything at all and you want to stop existing. So yeah, I think you might want to check into bipolar disorder. It sounds like a very obvious case of that. Sorry. I need more Rolling Rock. Okay. Next one. Okay. 2 weeks from the end of my senior year, I ditched school after lunch to go eat at Wendy's. I left because throughout all of lunch, I had a panic attack and hid in the bathroom as a result. There is a Wendy's about 5 minutes from my school, and I had decided, fuck it, I'll go there and get a Frosty and cool down. While driving, I was still in the midst of my panic and not having the courage to go into the Wendy's. I parked in a lot behind it. I got out of my car, walked around a field for about an hour and a half, and then decided I would go back to school to see if I could talk to a counselor or someone about my racing thoughts. This was not something I had ever done before. I talked to a school counselor and then the school psychologist about how I wanted to end my life because I didn't think it was worth living. I then tried to negotiate just going back to class because I had cooled down and didn't want to make anything more of the day. The school psychologist called my parents, and I had to repeat what I told the counselors to my parents. My parents were not happy in the slightest. The school then required that I get a psychological evaluation before coming back. My mom drove me to a mental hospital where I repeated again what I told my counselor and psychologist to a lady typing on a computer asking me questions. I was then checked into an inpatient program against my will. Inpatient was terrible. After a few days staying there, doing therapy sessions all day, I started lying to the counselors there, copying what other kids had done to leave. Not every kid was there for depression, but the majority were. After about a week, I left. This segment of my life is longer, but I'm going to stop in case this is too much. And that's the end of the email. Yeah, that's a problem. It really is a problem when bureaucracy is more important than an individual student's needs. That's why I think, a high school counselor, they're supposed to be there to help, especially during this strange time in your life where you have all these new emotions and you're probably just starting these feelings of depression. But the fact that if you try to confess it or like talk about it to these people, they're required like by law to do these things that are just going to make your life worse. And yeah, you confess that you're having like, a panic attack or like a bad time, that you feel like, you're having suicidal thoughts. And immediately they start the paperwork to get you in a fucking psych ward. No wonder why people are too afraid to speak out and talk to their counselors or their parents or their teachers. Because look what happens. You get fucking thrown into a loony bin and essentially tortured, from what he said, from what this poor guy said. So they need to stop that shit. They need to stop the bureaucracy of depression and suicidal thoughts, and maybe, I don't know, focus on the individual and not just like, oh, well, he's having a problem, I guess I'll pass the buck to this fucking psych ward so we can just lock him up with the other loonies, get rid of him. Doesn't have to be our problem anymore. Who's next? Oh boy, here's a fucking long one. Okay. Where do you want me to start? I don't know where to start. All right. I mean, it looks like this guy wants me to reveal his identity, so I'm just gonna, I guess I'll just read it from the beginning. I don't know. I guess he didn't want any anonymity, but that's fine because this is a made-up username anyway. Can't believe this is an idea that is just occurring now. Seems like something that just makes sense. As the premium edgy shitlord, Hana, the guy who pays you the most on Patreon and is fucking autistic about it, I might as well throw my 2 cents into the hat even if I am unable to attend the live stream event. Where do you even start with a life of just raw being ignored? Back in my days of elementary, I changed schools, likely around a time when I was developing social skills. This, of course, totally fucked me up, having to leave behind the friends I had made in my early years of life. Having to leave behind a friend whom I had grown up with. Having to just forget all of the shit that made me myself and go to a strange new place. When I arrived at this new school, I quickly realized that this was likely not a place I was going to quickly make friends at, and I only did end up making one real friend. For a while, that was enough. Then dreaded middle school arrived. Upon entering this place, roughly twice the size of my elementary school, I was entirely devoid of any choices as to what I wanted and who I wanted to be around. Everything changed as puberty took full swing over everyone. All the guys at my middle school became very posturing and almost territorial in nature. I was picked on quite heavily. I became an absolute asshole to some people and entirely closed off to everyone else. I'd either never say a word or the only shit out of my mouth would be foul cruelty. I got into trouble with the law during this time and constantly thought about suicide. I had zero friends. No one really knew I existed or bothered to talk with me. I was alone and bullied by people whom I went to elementary school with. They'd become the typical jock stereotypes. At the end of middle school, by chance, I happened to be sitting at a empty table and the group of edgy stoners were gathered nearby. They asked me a few questions and I just kind of answered honestly. They were pretty chill. That's how I met my only real friend in this world, I'm guessing. This was about the time Hatsune Miku was coming out, and I just received a cell phone. So the guy who'd become my only friend actually was a huge fan of Miku, and we exchanged numbers and texted all the time. Then high school rolled around. This time I had slightly more room to make choices. Now what you need to understand is that I am from Colorado. You know, the place where Columbine and the Batman theater shootings occurred. So, from a young age, I'd been constantly hearing the same narratives about shooters and spree killers to a sickening degree. If you think the news media echo chamber is bad, you've not seen a real echo chamber like I have. There are actually people here who legit think Rachel Scott died as some sort of fucking prophecy during the Columbine shootings. Can you believe that? People here have been so indoctrinated that it's fucking near cultish in nature. So for someone like me, bullied and cut out of the world's social hierarchy, school shooters seemed like they had legit reasons to have done so. Probably why I hail to the Supreme Gentleman meme and the legend that is Elliot Rodger. Though I don't believe I could ever do a mass shooting, it's just not in me to be violent, but I can see how they were mistreated and can relate. By the second year of high school, puberty began to slow down a bit. My suicidal tendencies had slowed down as well. I'd changed my attitude because I didn't want to continue being an asshole, and my bullies forgot I existed. Shortly after, pretty much everyone else did too. I went the entire 4 years talking really only to my one friend and a few of his friends who really just did not care I was there, never really adding much in conversations. I did try to socialize, but by this point my social abilities had been largely stifled. I basically made only 3 or 4 friends in high school, and after high school I am only in contact with 2 people. After high school, I spent 2 years as a neat shut-in, rarely leaving my room, no attempt to get a job, no life goals, just in an endless purgatory. Besides the rare few moments of texting with my one friend, I didn't do or talk to anyone. I did not really talk to my family either, despite living in the same house as them. You remember about that experiment with the monkeys and isolation? It's really true that isolation breeds raw despair. Looking back, those days weren't so bad. Free food, a house over my head, no complaints by my parents. But during them, they were brutal. Every day felt the same. The urge to escape it became near borderline obsessive. Yet I never did anything about it. It was a hell entirely of my own accord. And in some fucked up way, I miss it. I sometimes feel like my blood is screaming for me to just lock myself away in some hole somewhere. It's a feeling that sometimes I forget is there, but always comes crawling back. That's when I stumbled across Ace Attorney Online, that really confusing, cringy roleplay game I made you do a video on. The people on there became my only real source of social activity, and thus began what I considered a golden age for me. I branched out and came to depend on these people and felt they did for me too. Eventually, with enough encouragement, I started to feel better about myself. Then my parents were gifted this shitty beaten to fuck truck, and they gave it to me in the hopes that I would come out of my shell. And I did. I went straight into retail, a place where I knew I would have to face social interaction constantly to survive. It was very fucking hard at first. I had very little idea of how to communicate, but now I was forced to by my own volition. 1 year later, I'd managed to 180 my social abilities, and I got promoted to the position of manager, full-time and long hours, constant work and underpaid. And that's when the depression started coming back. When I was part-time, I still felt secluded enough to retain some aspect of my former life, but being full-time, I am constantly at work. I have no social life outside of it. and it is constant. The community on AO, the game, began to slowly fade away. Some people still exist in the corners of the servers. Some activity keeps it alive, but the emotional connection was gone, and I spiraled out of control. For a period of time, I disconnected with the world again, forcing myself out of bed to go to work or shutting myself in like I did before. The feelings were gone. The emotion was gone. Besides my one IRL friend, I didn't really have any connection to the world. I started doing drugs and drinking heavily. My father is an alcoholic. My brother is an alcoholic. So needless to say, it was very easy to become one too. I managed to kick the drugs, not the alcohol, and I found Mumkey's channel. Shit was seriously funny. And quickly, Mumkey, this fucking dork in a monkey mask, has become my favorite YouTuber. I'm still kinda fanboying out, and am paying him probably more money than I should. Feel kinda cucked by you. I pay you $100, my dude, and you barely know I exist, senpai. They say real comedy and tragedy are like two sides of the same coin. Boy, do I feel like that's true. You make me feel happier with my depression and help me put the world into perspective. I've decided to quit my job and find a new one, likely part-time or otherwise. Thank you for your comedy, Mumkey. You've helped provide me with an outlet for my depression. I'll try to stick out this shitty world knowing you can be there to help alleviate the pain with some good laughs. Cheers from your premium Patreon supporter, Hannah Noshima. Well, shit, that was a long life story, wasn't it? I guess I hope that my Ace Attorney video got some people to join your game. It sounds like that's one of the few things you really got going for you. And well, shit, I hope you could find a job that you like better than your manager job. But yeah, isolation, that those rhesus monkeys are no joke. I'm doing a video right now about my top 10 favorite Monkeys anime reviews episodes, and the depression video is in the top 10. And I have a little reflection about the content of that video and how much of it still rings true. And I think that experiment, I think it was Harry Harlow experiment with the rhesus monkeys in the isolation chambers. What was it called? Like I can't remember what they called it, but it was like a really fucked up name. The Pit of Despair. That's right. The Pit of Despair. Yeah, it sounds like you were in your own pit of despair, and just another example of this experiment. It's true. It's true. Let's go to the next one. I wonder how the chat's going. Looks like Hannah is here in the chat. I guess he did make it. I just saw it. Hey, Hannah, how's it going? Okay. Well, chat's not moving, so I'll go back to the email. Hi, Monkey. Big fan here for you. Funny. Not sure how to begin this, so I'll just say that for years now, I've felt very lonely. I feel like there is something wrong with me. I always wanted a girlfriend, but really struggle talking to girls. Don't worry, I'm nothing like Elliot Rogers. People often say things like, hey, don't worry, Anon, having a girlfriend is overrated. These same people would also make a big deal on social media about their own girlfriends, showing them off to everyone. If I were to go into more detailed about how I feel, I would only be able to say it's hard to describe, but I am in a lot of emotional pain, and seeing two people so much as kiss makes me hurt inside. Anyway, I have a story about my suffering if you want to read it out. This happens very recently. I live in the United Kingdom and was attending Manchester Comic-Con. I was lined up to get the autograph of David Hayter from Metal Gear Solid. I reached the back of the line and there is a cute girl. I would be in this line for 4 fucking hours. She is very pretty, and then something hits me. She likes Metal Gear Solid. I could start a conversation with this. I start to count down from 600. I lose count several times. It takes me 30 minutes. I feel sick the whole time, but I sum up the courage and finally saying hello. To my surprise, I'm not told to go away. She instead starts to speak to me. We start to speak, and pretty soon the sick feeling goes away, and I find out we have so much in common. Like mugs, of course. I'm guessing that was Metal Gear Solid. Like Star Wars, both like prequels, both enjoy animated series and comics, both like some characters from the new trilogy but dislike Force Awakens, enjoy comics, enjoy the movie Watchmen, etc. This will probably get boring. Anyway, we speak for hours and finally get to the front of the queue. This is the happiest I've been in a while, and the lonely feeling is gone for the first time. We are at the front of the queue, and she goes to get David Hatter's autograph. She gets it. It's my turn. I go and I get it. I turn around to see she is gone. I slowly look for her around the place, but can't see her. I can't call her, as I was nowhere near brave enough to ask for her phone number. Then I remember I didn't even ask for her name. I suddenly feel really stupid. I start to feel sick again and just feel the lonely feeling sink back in. I never saw her again, and on that same day, I was spending a night at a friend's. There were about four of us, so I put on a brave face and had a pretty enjoyable night. When everybody was asleep, I went into the bathroom and went into 4chan to complain about it. I find comfort in talking to people on R9K, as sometimes I get good advice. There it is, then I read this comment. I'm sorry, Anon, but it sounds like it was just small talk. I then realized this comment was probably right. My literally retarded brain took a normal conversation with a girl, and I thought she liked me. I couldn't really hold it in any longer, so this is where I cried for about 2 hours, but quietly so not to wake my friends. I felt sick the whole time as well, but thought the urge to vomit. I honestly don't know what's wrong with me, but hey, I've only been like this for like 18 years of my life so far. While I'm here, I want to ask a question. How did you do it, Mumkey? How did you get a girlfriend? Thanks for listening, Mumkey. Yours sincerely, Anonymous. P.S. Please block out any personal information on my account. Thank you. Also, sorry for my dyslexia and illiteracy. Well, boy, where do we even start? I guess to answer your question, I started dating Sheepover because of Mumkey. So if you want the advice, my advice would be go make a video that goes viral on Reddit, and that's the secret of getting a girlfriend, is getting extremely lucky, making comedy videos online. That's the only way that I was going to get a GF, was to become semi-famous. that's the only path I had available to me. But yeah, you bring up Elliot Rodger, and you talk about how when you would see people, and this is something that's important to me, when you would see public displays of affection, you go out and you see couples holding hands, or even like on Facebook when you see those pictures, and it would form like, the way I would describe it is like a swamp, like a stewing swamp of just disgust and sickness and depravity would form inside your gut. And I know it because I felt that for years as well. And it's why I try to make a conscious effort to not partake in PDA, because I understand that there are people in this position, like Elliot Rodger, that famous video where he's sitting there, and it's called like watching couples at the beach and feeling envy or something like that, and he's just fucking sitting in his car recording a couple on the beach out of his windshield, and he's just fuming with like misery and anger and hatred, because the one thing you want in life is companionship, is somebody to love you, somebody to just to fucking hold hands with. And the fact that you can't step out of your house, or evidently you can't even get on Facebook without seeing the one thing you want shoved in your face, and nobody, the normies don't understand this. They just see it as, oh, you jealous virgin, fuck off, you stupid faggot. They don't understand to see the one thing that you want but can't have around you all the time, and it just torments you because you know inside your brain that it's unachievable for you. It's a very serious, painful experience that somebody has to go through on a daily basis, and I feel like the vast majority of the population just doesn't understand how painful and miserable this can make somebody. They seem to write it off as a joke, but it's not so funny when the kid feeling that suddenly shoots up Isla Vista. Is it, you fucks? Fuck. All right. All right. How's the chat doing? How's the chat doing? I don't know. I see Exilovich saying some shit. He's probably mad that I said that mining is garbage. What's next? Who's next? Who's next? Okay, here's a new one. The past month or so, I've been locking myself in my room for no particular reason. I try to get productive shit done, like applying for jobs or taking more than a couple hours to plan a D&D session that I run, but I just hit a brick wall. My car has been in the shop for a long time, even though it's most likely something simple to be fixed, so I can't really go anywhere because my apartment building is near the freeway, so town is about a 20-minute walk down and around 30 minutes back because hills. I got suspended from my job 2 weeks ago because I took one for the team after a dumbass left a beer can in the cooler. I was going to get fired anyways, probably, because the new district manager had it out for me, so I didn't see any harm in it. Time goes by fast. I'm out of residual paychecks, so my bank account is at $30-some. I have student loans to start paying back when I went to college for one semester and failed all but one class due to lack of motivation to do homework. Luckily, I was able to pay the rent this month. I don't think it's the money problem that has me down, just that every day is starting to blend together. I've wanted to start making YouTube videos or get back into speedrunning, but just haven't had the motivation to do so. Anyways, thanks for providing this outlet for me, Mumkey. Hope everything goes well for you in the future. P.S. If you do another one of these, I'd be more than happy to keep sending updates or to go into detail. And that's the end of that email. So yeah, it looks like it's more of those situations where not only is this guy's just life catching up with him in terrible ways, and he's not catching a break, and pretty much every shitty thing that could happen is happening, but also he's going through those depressive motions of not having motivation or the desire to do the things that you once loved. And that really is like, once you realize that thing you used to love doing as a kid or even a week ago, to think, that doesn't interest me at all anymore. And then you think harder and you can't think of anything at all that interests you anymore. That's a hard wall to smash into. At least it is for me when that happens. Well, good luck. Yeah, keep us updated on how that goes. Here's a new one. Sorry to sound like Elliot Rodger, but a lot of my depression stems from never being able to talk to people or act normally in social situations. I've spent the past few years plotting how I would kill myself. I never wanted to put too much effort into it, and I also didn't want to fail and just hurt myself badly. I don't know if other depressed people have felt similar. I knew at the time that I would definitely do it eventually, because I surely thought that no one would care if I was gone, which to this day is mostly true. Things have somewhat turned around in the past month. I actually have a girlfriend now, but my self-worth really hasn't changed at all. I like having met a girl who appreciates my company, but I constantly feel like I do everything wrong. Sometimes I wonder if it's my depression that makes me afraid to take anything too fast in the relationship, but I don't know. It could just as well be some kind of anxiety problem. Anyway, I'm not the best at forming my own thoughts into words, but I still thank you for reading. I love watching your videos and look forward to whatever you make in the future. I'm glad to think that I may have contributed to your project here, so thank again for reading. And that's the end of the voice or the email. All right, let's go to the next one. I'm going to try to go through these faster because there's so many. And a lot of them, I don't want to repeat myself too much by saying the same things. And it's not like I'm here to give fucking advice, because I'm the last person to give advice on how not to be depressed. I wouldn't have this channel if I was capable of such advice. So, I think it's okay if I just keep trucking along. Hey, Mumkey, you can call me Dio when you read this story. When you read off the story, it's an old nickname of mine. So a while back, I was still fresh-faced in high school and had quite a few issues. I was silent 80% of the time. I didn't sleep, and when I did sleep, I would pass out face first on my desk or not show up at all. They eventually sent me to a school for delinquents because apparently the bitch in my anger management class made up some bullshit that students and faculty were afraid of me. Despite me getting along well with everyone, I was sent to the school for a full year of my life. It was hell, constant yelling, fighting, and stuff, being thrown around like uh, it was like being locked in a mental asylum for 9 hours a day. It only made my sleeping issues and depression worse to the point where I started to hallucinate and have fantasies of killing everyone in the building as brutally as I could. Eventually, I got out and returned to somewhat normal. That was almost 4 years ago now, and I am a 14-year-old dropout with a GED and plans to go to community college for film. And that's the end of the email. And fun fact, that entire email was the same sentence. And that's why it was hard to read, because it was just one big old run on. Well, shit, that's another mental asylum story, showing how useful those are for the mentally ill, or those with negative thoughts. It made one guy feel like he was being tortured, and it made this guy want to go on a fucking killing rampage. Yeah, it looks like those work out great for everybody involved. It's not just useful for the teachers and the parents of the student to get rid of their problem child. No, this is definitely helping people, locking them up and treating them like they're fucking monsters. Okay, here's the next one. I'm 14 and I may sound like an edgy teenager, but whatever. I've been mildly depressed for about 5 months now. I had an argument with one of my friends about politics and she got pissed at me. Afterwards, we just kind of casually exchanged glances in the halls of our school, maybe some short conversations on occasion. But the tension was always there. I thought if I waited, maybe it would just blow over. Now I'm starting high school this fall with many regrets. I found myself thinking of my former friends at night, and it kept me up. Hours of spewing self-hatred within my mind. I found a friend online who I feel safe confiding in. He helps me a lot more than he knows. Thanks for listening to my story. Give Digi my regards. And that's the end of the email. I think it's evidence, and nothing against you, guy, but it's evidence that if you're in middle school, you shouldn't talk about politics. And she shouldn't have been talking about politics either, because clearly this conversation was toxic for both of you. Really, nobody should ever talk about politics. I just like to do it because I can shitpost on Twitter and make people angry. But unless your goal is to make other people angry, I would avoid talking about that, especially to somebody of the opposite sex. I doubt that your middle school politics are going to be agreeable for a fellow 13-year-old girl. But that's not me trying to shame you, because, I mean, you can talk about whatever you want. And that doesn't really help with depression either. Okay, next one. In my junior year of high school, I dedicated easily 90% of all of my time studying and doing schoolwork, and still had some of the lowest grades in the class. In physics class, I did score the lowest grade, a 73. In social studies and math, I went from getting a near 100% to scoring a low B. In fact, earlier in the semester, I was the only student in social studies class to have not missed a single question on any test. I was the only student in physics class who actually took notes, I might add. I was actually able to get an A, making things up and such. However, I had dedicated 100% of available time to not getting a D in math and physics. This was a very stressful time for me, and I have many memories of listening to the albums Frigid Stars LP by Codeine and Stratosphere by Duster, as I cried myself to sleep almost every single night for a 3-month period. Well, there you go. Evidence that perhaps high school is more difficult than I made it sound during the ISMA podcast. Yeah, stress is pretty bad. It's no fun when you have to go to 8 or 9 different classes every day, and they all give you different homework, and you have to study for tests and shit for all of them. That's a lot to force upon a fucking 16-year-old kid. Hey, I know you're 16, but we're going to give you a higher workload and more homework than your fucking parents get at their job. At least when your parents go home, like, they're away from work. They go for 8 hours and then they go home and get to do other shit. You go for 8 hours, you have to compartmentalize 8 or 9 different subjects at once. with this shit and then go home and continue working on it. Yeah, the school's fucking shit. Okay, next one. For your depression chamber, I'm 16 and have had to move about 18 times in my life, with over 10 of those being in the last 5 years. It all started when my mom got into an abusive relationship with a black man, a nice detail, around 2008 or so. I was 8 then, and I'd spend many nights listening to screaming in the other rooms, my mom getting beat and hearing my mom sob uncontrollably. At this point, I was not very depressed since I was just a fucking kid. I didn't really think too much of it other than it was bad. Fast forward through 2 or so years of that, and finally my mom decided to look after me by handing custody over to my uncle. I was completely unaware of this until he showed up on my first day of middle school to take me away to Virginia. So I'm separated from my mom for about 3 months until she shows up in Virginia at the very end of 2011. Now starts the seemingly endless cycle of staying with one of our relatives, our friends, my mom eventually being unable to get along with them at all, which results in a pathetic screaming fight. So we find our own place to live until my mom gets fired, moving to a new state with some other relative in it, rinse and repeat. It started in Virginia, with which my mom couldn't handle my uncle. Then we moved to Las Vegas, Nevada, where it happened with my second cousin. Then we moved to Colorado, where it happened with my older brother. Then we moved back to Las Vegas, where it happened with my grandpa. Then we moved to Texas, where it happened with my aunt. This one lasted the longest for an unbelievable 2 years, whereas every other place was only ever held for 6 months to a year. And finally, we moved back to Colorado, where I was living with my best friend since 3rd grade and his mom. Take a guess what happened after about 2 months living with his mom, Mumkey. My mom couldn't fucking handle her, so she blew up, and now we're living with my brother again. This time I'm extra depressed due to my best friend being involved in this. This is the most precarious situation we've lived in so far because there is no one else in the country who's willing to take us in. And I feel as if we're on a very short fuse as long as we're here. If we get kicked out, we'll have no money since my mom hasn't been approved for some sort of financial aid because she definitely cannot hold a job. I just wish we could settle down until I can support myself. I've also neglected to mention the years and years worth of unrequited love stories through middle and high school, but I know we all already know how those go. What's more is that so very often I went to productive my making videos or learning a new language or something, but my work ethic is completely shit, and I can't imagine it rising when I'm in these kinds of situations, and that's the end of the email. Fuck. That's terrible. That's terrible to be in the custody of a woman who is so toxic and irresponsible and just a fucking plague on your life. I was lucky to have a great family growing up. My parents were great. They were, for the most part, very supportive of me. They wanted me to graduate high school and be successful in college and all that shit. But what the fuck are you supposed to do when you're a kid and you're with this and I don't even care about offending you or your mom, this stupid fucking bitch who is so toxic of a person that you're forced to move every 6 months? How is a kid supposed to fucking grow if you can't plant the seed anywhere? You can't just lay down your roots and grow as a human being and make friends. And like, no wonder why you had all this unrequited love. Like, who fucking cares? Even if you got a girlfriend, you're moving to Las Vegas or Colorado or some shit. You had no chance. It's fucking tragic. You have no chance. Like, I think of these military families like Asperger, these people who, like, thanks to the military family, they have to move like once every year or twice a year. That's shitty. But yours is even worse because it's due to a woman, a crazy fucking bitch who can't get along with anybody, not even her own children, evidently, and just keeps getting kicked out and homeless and having to move all around the country. What a fucking nightmare. What a fucking nightmare. You know, all all of the depression that I go through and that I've experienced, and a lot of the people I've talked to, it's just like a naturally occurring phenomenon. I always want to make the point clear that there is no specific reason. There doesn't have to be a negative thing in your life for this to come on, but sometimes there is. And this is a perfect example of how the things that happen to you, and even the things that aren't happening to you, can very easily spawn mental illness. I mean, fuck. I don't know. I guess you just have to tough it out until you're 18. I don't know. That's really shitty, and it has me kind of upset that somebody has to go through that. But I imagine there are hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of such cases, not only in this country, but worldwide. Fuck that. I say kill your mom. Kill your mom and become your own guardian. Make it look like an overdose or something. That is not actual monkey advice. That I was just reading that. That was part of a different email. I did not say that. What's next? Okay. How's the chat like in this one? Oh, I got a super chat. Sorry if there have been other super chats, but I have not even been on this tab. Jonathan says, I hope you do another one of these. Hearing stories next to my own was comforting to an extent. Hey, there you go, Jonathan. I don't know if I already read yours. It sounds like I did, but I don't remember which one you were. Now the shit posts are going to seem really unfunny, somebody says. Yeah, don't worry. I'm trying to avoid the shit posts because that's not what this was about. Okay, here's another one. During my freshman year of high school, I was feeling especially depressed because of the fact that I was already failing my honors classes and that I had no friends. Sometime in the fall, we had this shitty-ass assembly about drunk driving accidents that the school crammed everyone into the gym for. And for some reason, it hit me especially hard because there were teachers genuinely talked about loved ones that they lost to these kinds of accidents. I thought to myself, why are these good people dead and someone as worthless as me still alive? My parents raised me in a way that I started to believe that if my grades weren't good, then I would be a worthless person. So I ended up having a whole suicidal episode and accidentally told one of my teachers that I wanted to kill myself. I ended up being sent to a weekly therapist, but my parents kept ragging on me, saying that there are people who have it much worse than I do. I know that, but that doesn't make it any better. I just felt like killing myself even more at that point if I was such a worthless piece of shit. I don't go to the therapist anymore because of that. I'm still alive because I like to believe that my brother would be sad if I were gone, but this channel is kind of comforting in the sense that there are other people who feel the same way, and that's the end of the email. First of all, fuck your ignorant parents. They don't know what they're talking about. The idea that it has to be a contest, that you have to have like a pity Olympics to see who's the most deserving of feeling depressed is fucking retarded. As I've said 10 times tonight, there doesn't have to be a reason. It just happens. It's just in your brain. There's a fucking bug crawling around, pulling on the wires, fucking up your head, and it's not your fault. And there doesn't have to be a reason. And I guess, normies and parents and things like that, you can't expect them to understand that. In their mind, there has to be a logical progression of, X happens, which equals Y, but that's not the case. And fuck anybody who tries to force that upon you. Fuck anybody in the world who thinks that there has to be a specific reason why you're feeling the way you're feeling. That's retarded. It's just patently, scientifically false and straight up retarded. Okay. New email. I was driving down to a party and got lost. Then I came across this woman holding a sign, "Need food and gas, please help." She had a baby with her. The lady saw me and waved at me. I waved back. Sadly, I didn't have any money at the time, so I should go fuck myself, right? As I passed down the intersection straight past her, I took the wrong turn and had to go around again. I saw every car pass this poor lady near the gas station. It really sucks, but it would have made sense. In an idealistic world, the cars would probably stop like Mother Teresa on Gandhi crack to help this woman and her baby. However, in the real world, everyone is concerned for themselves and their own families, so the cars indirectly shout, "Fuck you, lady, I got places to fucking go." Which is cold, but in this world, you either die holding little but a cardboard to name, or become fucking slaves to the masters with your paycheck. But fuck, I still wish I had money to give the poor fucking wench and her baby, but not out of guilt, but just to so that fucking woman stops holding the cardboard of her outcry of help. Everyone deserves a second chance for help, but fuck, too many people ask God for miracle lotteries, I guess. I just hope that wench just wants money and does not need money. And that's the end of the email. Okay. You know what? I'll let you all decide what to think about that one. Here's another one. At the beginning of the summer, there was a girl I really liked. I would say love, but I wouldn't feel right doing so. Basically, every day I told myself that I was going to confess to her. I never fucking did. She got someone. I refused to let most people really get to know me after I essentially scared off two of my best friends with my constant fucking depression. One of them is as depressed as I am, and he still got fucking annoyed with me. I hate 75%. I like 75% hate my dad. He's a huge fucking cunt to me most of the time and then acts like a little bitch when I don't want to hang out with him because of it. I fucking hate school. It's the most pointless thing. And it distracts me from the only thing I want to do, which is music, which I'm utterly talentless at. And at the end of the day, when I'm lying in bed, I'm too much of a pussy to end it. I'm too much of a pussy to even fucking scar myself. I just scratch at my fucking legs sometimes. I'm that cunt who was the first to buy your book. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I just figured I'd denote myself somehow. And that's the end of the email. Yeah, having friends while you're depressed can be a tricky hurdle to navigate around. Because you do feel like, you know, you have friends, so you should be able to talk about your problems with them. But for some reason, when it comes to like depression and these sorts of things, and evidently, even if the other person you're talking to, even if your friend is depressed, this is something people just don't want to hear about. And I don't really know why. I suspect it might be a feeling of helplessness, like you're presenting them with a problem that they feel like they can't possibly solve, and it makes them either scared or angry, and they just don't want to have the conversation in the first place. I don't really get that. I've never been one to push a person away when they wanted to talk about this shit. It's so rare that it would ever happen. I can only think of like one time in history during school where somebody wanted to talk to me about something like this. But now I'm online and I get messages about it like every day. And unfortunately, it would have to be a full-time job to respond to everybody. But I guess it's just know I do read most of them when I have the chance. And I mean, people don't need an answer. They just need somebody to talk to get these feelings out of their brain and off of their chest and into somebody's ear. Like 90% of the time, I imagine that's all they want, because they know that like there's no magical cure. They don't expect the person they're talking to just fucking fix it magically. They just want to talk to somebody about it so that they're not holding it in all alone. And clearly they can't talk to their school counselor or anything because they'll get thrown in that goddamn loony bin. So I don't know. Just be an open ear. That's all you need to do. You don't need to solve it. But if you want to prevent your friend from trying to kill himself or from getting thrown in a loony bin, at least be the person that they can open up to. But I'm guessing if you're on this channel, I don't need to tell you that. You probably already know that. Let's go to the next one. Okay. I hate saying I'm depressed. Whenever I feel scared and alone and like I will always be a burden simply by existing, I always fucking torture myself by questioning the validity of my own feelings. I can't feel sad without this annoying voice in my head loudly telling me I'm not allowed to be depressed or feel sad because my reasons aren't good enough. I doubt my own feelings so much I don't even know what's fake and real anymore. I just want to be happy. Is that so much to ask? Why am I surrounded by assholes who have no idea what it's like being put in my position, who have control over me even though they're unfeeling idiots? Why am I being made to feel ashamed of being myself, be it by myself or through others indirectly? Why do I have to follow in the footsteps of the fucking idiots who were stupid enough to allow me to be born? I didn't consent to being alive, so why should I have to do what you say? Whenever I ask myself any of these questions, the comment that follows is, "You have no right to feel this way." What the fuck do you mean I have no right to feel this way? Since when do I need a reason to feel terrible? I just want to live. Let me live, please. Why does any of this need to be a part of me? I can't even write this thing without doubting myself back on myself. Is it fair to say that I have depression? I don't fucking know, but I feel this way. Don't validate this, please. It probably just make me feel worse. Sorry for making you read this entire thing. I just wrote down how I feel, so I didn't try to make it structured or just make sense, really. Hope you all feel better than I do. And that's the end of that email. Okay, well, I think I'll take your advice, and I won't try to prescribe anything. I'll just I'll let that one be out there. I wanted this to only go for an hour, so we'll probably only hit one or two more. So I'm probably just gonna read through them really fast. But there's so many more here that I can't possibly get to. Oh boy, this one's long. I guess we'll do this one last, and then I'll check the chat, and then we'll say goodnight. Hey, Mumkey, first off, as many are going to say, great job on all of your work, and I'm glad how far you've come as a creator. I've been enjoying your stuff since maybe around 10K subs and blah, 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 dick sucking, dick sucking, dick sucking. Anyway, now on to the real depressing shit. My personal story with depression comes in two waves, first in 6th grade between the ages of 11 and 12, and more recently from October or so of last year to the present. I am 15 at the time of writing and reading this. The first wave didn't have much in terms of eventfulness except for two occasions. First, after a bad day of school involving several forms of public humiliation, I came home and put a knife to my throat. Fortunately, I did not slit my throat, and I lived to see another day. The other time was the day after I turned 12, and once again, after some teasing, I cried for a solid 45 minutes to an hour in like a study hall sort of thing, but not really. After the 45 minutes, our class was let go for a 5-minute break, and my teacher pulled me aside and asked what was wrong. After I told her what was wrong, she sent me to see the counselor, which admittedly marks the one time a counselor actually helped me a bit, and a few weeks later, that bout ended with me getting a girlfriend, then breaking up 3 months later. My more recent bout, I'd say, actually had roots going back as far back as April 2016, where some thoughts would pop into my head from time to time about depression. Things really went downhill after not only the birth of my baby sister, on top of my baby brother, who was born a year prior in 2015, and starting high school, which happened less than a month apart. I remember feeling quite overwhelmed, and with my already busy home life essentially being my sibling's father figure after my stepdad left. This also left me with not a lot of time to hang out with friends or do much of fucking anything, since we also lived off child support checks and social security checks for my grandpa who lives with me. I officially broke on November 1st, 2016, when I got into an argument with my mom and got so mad I punched her in the throat. Later that night, I'd attempt suicide again by swallowing pills but spitting them up and back into the bottle. Everything kind of settled in during December, and I've just been broken and bored out of my mind ever since with my shitty existence. I get insanely jealous of my friends doing shit when honestly I don't know much about what to do with myself. I can't really find any sort of driving force in me, and just overall shit ain't good. Half of my friends are just plain assholes to me, and I'm the punching bag of the band I'm in. On the plus side, in April I saw the Descendants in concert, and that admittedly was a great time. But for the most part, I don't interact much with people in real life, and most of my hobbies I do by myself. My sleep cycle is fucked to shit, and I fear my future of being a homeless bum or just a plain failure. Also, in school, I'm no top student anymore like I used to be. I want to do so much, but I know no matter what I do, that makes me happy for like a week. I won't feel whole no matter fucking what in the long run. However, now I do try to talk to people about it, such as close friends and maybe a family member or two. It also works since I can relate with my friends on depression, since one of my closest friends also attempted suicide in April and was put in a psych ward for a week. In terms of my future, I do try to stay positive since I am giving radio a try, which is what I currently want to do for a career, and school starts up soon, so I'll get to see my non-asshole friends. I also have an application put in for a job at a local grocery store, so if that works out, it'll be a good thing. However, I can't help but to fear my future as well and think I won't make it out of high school alive. But of course, that's just the internal conflict I deal with. Thank you very much, Mumkey. If you read this on your live stream or just read this as is, sorry if there are any grammar or spelling errors, for I typed this on my phone at 4 a.m. I hope you have a fine day and a fine life. And that's the end of the email. The one thing that pops into my mind after reading that one is that he actually, he's one of the lucky ones. He won the lottery. He had an encounter with a school counselor that actually didn't end with him pretty much thrown into prison. And an encounter that he self-admittedly says actually helped him out. So I don't know. Maybe I'm full of shit. Maybe you should go talk to your counselors. But from the vast majority of the things I've read, it only ends in further pain and making your life worse. So I don't know. I guess I don't know. It worked for him, but it sounds like he said that's one of the few times it did work. So maybe even if you're one of the lucky ones, it only happens once in a blue moon. Well, shit, folks, we're coming to the end of this one. I'll take a look at the chat and see what people are talking about. Is there a way I can DM you after this email? Cause I feel like I wasted something. I wasted my chance on a shit post. Or could you do this again? Yeah, I'll do this again. Everybody, if you want to be included in the next one, or if I didn't get to your story, mumkeyjones@gmail.com. Type up your shit, send it to me. I don't know how often I'll do these. Maybe once a month, maybe once a week, maybe never again. Who knows? But hopefully I will again sometime. Looks like we have a super chat from Mike Your Mike, who says, top tier stream dude, keep up the great work, Munchie. Great. All right, everybody. Yeah, send in your stories and your experiences if you want me to read them on the Depression Chamber #2. I think this was a good night. I enjoyed it. It's a weird phrase to put given the subject material, but hopefully other people, hopefully all of you. It looks like there's like 140 people in here, which is an astonishing number considering what we're talking about here. Hopefully you got something out of this. Maybe it was cathartic for you. Maybe it just made you feel worse. Probably made you feel worse. But I do think the most important thing is to know that when you're going through this shit, you're not going through it alone. And that's the main premise of Little Karibo's series, We're Still Here, where he has like 100 episodes now just talking about his experiences with depression. And you can look to him and be like, oh, one of the pioneers of internet videos is also going through this thing, huh? I guess it's really not just me. And I think that's one of the most important things you can do, is to, first of all, understand that it's not just you. Anyways, that's all I got for you for now. I'll talk to you guys later. I guess the next thing I'll be uploading other than Let's Plays will be the new ISMA podcast on Thursday. Hopefully Asterios Kokonos actually shows up. And then that top 10 Mumkey anime reviews video should go up maybe Saturday or Monday. I'm not sure. All right, I'll see you.